Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We'll wait for 2 to 3 minutes for everybody to join in. We have to discuss bhakti. Bhakti movement. Okay. Himanshu, that question I will take with you. I know that's a previous year question, first statement, 2023 paper. That's a point of perspective. Narendra, refresh. It's what perspective. That the answer could be B, C, or D both in that question. It's about how do you interpret invasion. And first, I'll do that question. I have it. Once I've done with this, I will do the remaining questions. So I have that question. This is what you are saying, I think. 1 second. This is the statement. Na? Let it be that I will tell you that this is open to interpretation. We'll talk about that. Don't worry. We'll talk about it. No. Live class has not got exchanged because this is art and culture. So it's again part A. Okay. We wait 1 more minute and then we start. I'm waiting for just 2 to 3 5 people. All the number is reaching there. Just 1 more minute it will take. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay. So we have discussed Sufi and now we have to discuss Bhakti. When we talk about Bhakti, as I said, there are two Bhakti movements. One is 8th century, 7th, 8th century CE, which is South India. And the second one would be the 12th, 13th century, properly becomes very popular after 15th century, which is North Indian. You would basically know this. This is the Allavar Nayanar tradition. And this is Kabir, Mirabai, and the connecting link between the two are the Marathi saints, Tukaram, Saint Tukaram, you have Eknath, very, very important. The Marathi saints were the connecting link because they knew the South Indian languages and they were able to transmit the ideas in North Indian languages. Because Allavar Nayanar tradition was in vernacular, it basically took close to 500 to 600 years for it to get transmitted to North India. And that transmission was only possible through the Marathi saints who understood both the languages in that regard. So the link between South and North Indian Bhakti are the Marathi saints, and the first Bhakti movement happens in South India, the second one in North India. Now let's talk about Bhakti. Let's talk about Bhakti. What are its basic tenets, or why did it start? Why did it start? So, why Bhakti movement? This is the first question. And the answer to this question is very straightforward. In Hinduism, a person's access to God is again mediated by an institution, that being the temple. And within the temple itself, you have pandits, you have scholars, you have experts, you have basically the Brahmins. Now, again, these intermediaries mediate how we connect with God. But the issue with temples is one step further, because there are caste, varna distinctions, caste and varna distinctions which are upheld. Further, gendered exclusion. In certain places, women are not allowed. In certain places, certain people are not allowed. Further, not everyone can access. And therefore, there are multiple impediments. For example, a woman, a Shudra, lower castes, or generally socially excluded categories, for them it is very, very hard to get access to the temples. They can't even enter the temple in that regard. And the Bhakti movement, therefore, again is a product of institutionalized religious setup, is something which the Bhakti movement challenges. So if you look at it, the starting point of Sufi Bhakti is the same, which is institutional issues, institutional monopoly and impediments which were created for the people. So temple is the problem here, but there are also other notions which come through, because Hinduism is much more complex when it comes to social divisions. Now, anybody has any issue in this? Something which we see in the social justice reform movement, also part of the Indian landscape and generally the cultural understanding of our society. Anybody, any issue here? Now, the next important aspect is that then how do Bhakti saints challenge the temple monopoly? And that ways, their ideas are very, very interesting. They again talk about personal devotion, talk about surrendering to God, talk about love for God, and again the whole concept is personalization of access to God. Now I can guarantee 80 to 90% of you may have a God image as your most probably wallpaper. If not wallpaper, lock screen. If not lock screen, your wallet will have it. If not your wallet, your study place will have it. If not your study place, your house will for sure have a small temple. Tell me, am I wrong? Am I wrong in assuming this? Somewhere, someplace, you would for sure have an image of God, either as a wallpaper, either as your lock screen, either in your wallet, either where you when you are where you're studying, or you have a small personalized God in your house. Wallpaper, mobile, PC, perfect. Now, this is called personalization. That you have your own temple. Can you imagine that in 5th century you could develop a temple in your own house, have an idol in your own house? That was unimaginable, because the access to God was something which was only mitigated through the temple. Now tell me one more thing. Is there any designated day on which you go to the temple without fail? In the sense, everyone has to go on that day for sure. Is there any day in Hinduism where you have to go to the temple on that day? No. For Christians it is Sunday. For Islam it is Friday. But in Hinduism it is Wednesday. There, if you like it, you can go to the temple. If you want, you can go to the temple. But if you don't want, you can very simply be at home and worship. This is called personalization. This is the word for personal bhakti, devotion. You do not need to go to an institution to connect with God. God is in everyone. God is everywhere. This is a direct consequence of the bhakti movement. What we today see as Hinduism, from the aspect of idol worship, from the aspect of having idols at home, idol worship is already there, but having idols at home, having personalized form of devotion, having your own way of what we call as worshipping, having your own personal God. Everybody has a personal God. For example, somebody would for example worship Lord Ganesha, somebody would worship Lord Krishna, somebody would worship Lord Hanuman, somebody would worship Lord Ram, somebody would worship Shakti, which is Durga Mata. So everybody has their own personal preference. Again, something as a direct consequence of bhakti movement, because we have personalized, individualized our devotion. You do not need to go to the temple. Your access to God is personal. This is what the bhakti movement produced in the Indian society. Makes sense? Are you getting the aspect of personalization of access to God? Yes? Okay. Now, whilst doing so, by doing so, they did three things. They challenged the caste system. They challenged the gendered aspect or gendered discrimination, and they also simplified faith for everyone, which is the most important point, that now rituals and sacrifices were not necessary for devotion. For devotion. That very simply, your devotion is not just about rituals and sacrifices. Your devotion is about your bhakti, your understanding with God. They are challenging the caste system, they are challenging gender discrimination, they are simplifying faith for everyone. And this is a revolution within Hinduism. This is a revolution within Hinduism, because this type of structure was never thought of and was never there itself. So when I talk about the essence of bhakti, it is a response to Brahmanical orthodoxy, but it is about no caste and gender distinctions. It is about complete surrender to God. It is about purity of character. And one more aspect of bhakti was that if you have personalized your God, your devotion would be to one God. Now, your one God could have a form and not have a form. This is called monotheistic influence, wherein this is sagun, this is nirgun. Gun means quality, sa means has, nir means no. Good, an example of sagun. Sagun bhakti. Can anybody tell me an example of sagun bhakti? Example of sagun bhakti. Very good. Ram bhakti, Krishna bhakti, Mirabai being the best example. So Ram bhakti, Krishna bhakti are very good examples of this, where you give your God a form. Krishna, Lord Ram, Lord Shiva. On the other hand, you have Nirguna Bhakti. Can anybody give me an example of Nirguna Bhakti? Very good. Kabir. For Kabir, his God had no form. Ram, Rahim, everything was same for him. Formless and form God is basically the difference between bhaktis. So for some, the God had a form, which is Krishna, Lord Rama. For some, he did not have a form. And therefore, when we talk about core values, Sagun and Nirgun led to monotheism, which is that one God worship. So the Allavar and the Nayanars will only worship their own gods, Vishnu or Shiva. They will not have multiple gods. This is the core philosophy. This is the core philosophy. Wherein you are talking about personal devotion, you're talking about surrendering to God, you're talking about love to God, but you're also challenging these two major issues. Challenging the two major issues. So do we understand what I mean by bhakti movement? Because this is true. How can you say that sun and moon have form? So that is also sagun. Basic logic. Use your logic. So very simply, do we understand bhakti as a concept? Because this is true for both. This is true for both the North Indian and the South Indian. Are we clear with regards to what is bhakti? Because then I will give you a Venn diagram for bhakti and Sufi. Sagun means deity worship. Yes. Yes, it is bhakti is access to God, every form, everywhere. Yes, why not? Sure. Okay. Now, salient features of Bhaktism. Bhakti preachers preach the principle of monoism, which is oneness of God, believed in freedom from the cycle of life and death, advocated moksha through deep devotion and faith to God. So you will get moksha if you will have deep devotion for God. They talk about self-surrender and getting the bliss and grace of God itself. Gurus had precepts and guides how they used to, how you are obviously going to become or going to get moksha itself. Universal brotherhood, everybody is the same. Criticize idol worship within temple. Within temple, though personal idols are allowed. Singing hymns in devotion, arguing that all living beings were God's children, and strongly denounced caste system according to birth. Condemned ritualism, pilgrimages, fasts. They considered local languages as the language to spread the people, or spread to the ideas of the people. So very simply, Sanskrit automatically gets rejected because vernacular is important. Sanskrit is the language of the temples. So if I have to, before I go to Allavar and Nayanars, if I have to very simply go for a Venn diagram, Sufi Bhakti. Personal devotion, self surrender, tolerance, personalization of God, and challenging institutional path and ideas. Denounce rituals, practices, sacrifices. But how are Sufi and Bhakti different? Obviously, fundamentally different. Islam, Hinduism challenged caste and gendered distinctions, and and Hinduism and the movement was older and more widespread. On the other hand, Islam, the gendered aspect was missing, and more than that, limited to urban centers of North India. The coverage in South is very, 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 very low. This is more widespread in that regard. But what matters to you is Bhakti Sufi intersections. So I think you are in a position to now answer what is the difference and the similarities between Bhakti and Sufi. Yes? Come on. Second, limited to urban centers of North India. It is a little bit more towards urban centers. Gender aspect, yes. There is no, it does not challenge gender aspect. A lot of the orthodoxies of Islam have been taken by Sufis also. Can we move forward? Have to be more vocal. Had your lunch. Still. Yes. Okay. Why Sufi urban only? Because it is linked more towards the centers where the rule is. So therefore, it is much more limited in that. This is much more grassroots level movement. Sufi's coverage is lower in that regard. Okay. Now, let's talk about the first Bhakti movement, which is 7th, 8th century CE. 7th, 8th century CE. And the 7th to 8th century CE, the emergence, it takes two forms, Nayanars and Allavars. Nayanars are the ones who follow Shiva, complete devotion to Shiva, and Allavars are to Lord Vishnu. So Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. Nayanars are Lord Shiva, and and Nayanars are Nayanars are Lord Shiva, and Allavas are Lord Vishnu. So very simply, NS AV. Remember this very standard thing, straightforward thing. Now, the distinct thing about the South Indian Bhakti movement was there were two impulses which were there for South Indian Bhakti. For South Indian Bhakti, there were two impulses which led to its origins. Led to its origins. And the reason is twofold. First is seen as challenge to the challenge to the gendered and caste discrimination. But over and above this, there is one more impulse, which is that people see when Bhagavatism starts to rise in North India. When does Bhagavatism rise in North India? Puranic Hinduism. When does it rise? Gupta period. Gupta period. Now, Gupta period, once Bhagavatism will rise, what will happen to to Buddhism and Jainism? What will happen to Buddhism and Jainism? They will decline. Now, if North India, they will be undercut. Where will they go? South. So what happens is that Buddhism and Jainism starts to criticize and spread in South India using these caste and gendered distinctions as a factor. So what they're basically doing is that the Buddhists and Jains, after getting undercut in North India by arguing that basically Buddha is an avatar of Lord Vishnu, now they are moving towards South India, and in South India they are taking these caste distinctions and these gender distinctions as a form of criticism and arguing to people that if you come to Buddhism, Jainism, there will be no caste and gender distinctions. This was not liked by the Allavars and the Nayanars or the saints of Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, that Buddhism and Jainism was actually gaining ground. So there are basically two different angles where in Buddhism, Jainism, one is the criticism, and that was leading to a very severe criticism of Hinduism and people moving towards Buddhism and Jainism. And therefore, now comes the second angle. They were sharply critical of Buddhists and Jains and talked about salvation through personal devotion. So the need for South Indian Bhakti came out as a need for Hinduism to change in South India. Because if in South India, Hinduism would not have changed, then Buddhists and Jains would use that criticism to convert people to Buddhism and Jainism. And therefore, by arguing that what you need is only personal devotion and there are no gendered and caste distinctions, Bhakti saints allowed for Hinduism to change itself in such a way that it could challenge Bhaktism, or what we call as Buddhism and Jainism. Why didn't you go to East? Weren't they already audience there? East, they had already spread. So it's about keeping them themselves relevant in the Indian subcontinent. Southeast Asia, Japan, China, they are already spread through. So try to understand this point, please, that the origin of South Indian Bhakti is interconnected to each other. Wherein the concept is that if the Bhakti saints would not have emerged, maybe the Buddhists and Jains would have gained more ground. That creates the need to challenge the gender and caste distinctions, and that allows for them to answer to Bhakti, to Buddhists and Jains. Is this making sense? Is this making sense? Yes. Okay. Now, what did they propose? What did they argue? Love, heroism of the Sangam literature was used, and Tamil was chosen, Malayalam was chosen, Kannada was chosen, Telugu was chosen. The local languages were chosen as the language of spreading bhakti movement, and they went from village to village talking about these gods. Over and above that, about how their devotion transcends gender and caste distinctions. So when we talk about Allavars and Nayanars, the total number of Nayanars are 63, come from very diverse backgrounds, most of them coming from lower caste itself. The chief among the Nayanars, the most popular Nayanars, are Apar, Sambandar, Sundrar, and Malikavasagar. Very, very important, have to remember this. And the most important text, which has all the songs of Bhakti, are called Tevaram and Tiruvakam. Very, very important texts. Allavar number is lower, 12, come from different backgrounds, but the most important Allavar saints are Periyavarar, his daughter Andal, and you have Allavar and Namavalar. And the compilation of their songs is Divya Prabandham. Divya Prabandham. So you have to remember this, very, very, very important. And you have to understand their contribution, because they changed the way we saw bhakti generally. Further, we know about them because later Chola and Pandya kings became so close followers of the Allavars and Nayanars and the bhakti poets that even temples were constructed in their name, and their poems were passed down from generation to generation. Now, the most interesting feature is women's contribution in Bhakti movement South India. And when we talk about Andal, very important Allavar, and she was a devout, what we call as devotee of Vishnu, expressed her love to Lord Vishnu in song and in poem. And for the Nayanars, you have Karikal Amir, very, very important, because she was a proper saint who renounced everything. She was a proper renunciant. But just to give you a taste of what their devotion was, can I read out a small composition from Malika Vasagar to give you their devotion, to talk about their personalization? Yes? Into my vile body of flesh, you came as though it were a temple of God, and soothed me wholly and saved me. O Lord of grace, O gem most pure, sorrow, birth, death, illusion, you took from me and set me free. O bliss, O light, I have taken refuge in you, and never can I be parted from you. This is the level of devotion which they talk about, that you can take away everything from me, but you cannot take away God from me. Very important point you need to understand. Wherein they're talking about a certain type of devotion which is out of this world in that regard. It is, in a way, full surrender to God in that sense. So, before we go to Shankara and others, let's talk about South Indian Bhakti. South Indian Bhakti. Two very simple things. Allavars, Nayanars. Over and above that, sometimes like this also, Allavars, Then origin, challenge, gender and caste, challenge Buddhists and Jains. Over and above that, personal devotion, complete surrender, and very simply, God is everywhere in everyone. That is challenge institutions, sure. So now, anybody has any issue here? Anybody has any issue here? No? Come on. How did Buddhism spread to Sri Lanka? Ashoka, his son, daughter, all spread it to Sri Lanka. The issue is totally different altogether. Huh? Sangamitra, Mahendra send multiple expeditions sent to South Sri Lanka. Can I move to now the next set of issues related to Bhakti movement? A lot of you are very silent. Either you're not following, either you're following it too much. I need an assertion. That's why I'm waiting for your answer. Okay. Now comes a very important area. Ramanuja, Shankara, Nimbarka, Madhava, Vallabha. Now I want to say something here straightforward. I'll be talking about Shankara, Madhava, and we'll be talking about concept of Advaita, Vishisht Advaita, this Dvaita, Eta, Veta, we will discuss. But right now, I want you to keep it or take it on face value. When I'll teach you 6 schools of philosophy, I will teach you Dvaita first, then I'll teach you Advaita, then I will teach you Vishisht Advaita. So right now, I only want you to concentrate on a table I'm going to make in front of you. If you can remember that table, any question in prelims will be answered automatically. And over and above that, any question in mains can also be answered through the table. Don't ask me what it is, because I will teach you, but for that I need 3.5 hours specifically. And that I will do when I will teach you 6 schools of philosophy. So can I presume that you presume or presumed that you understand it? And as of right now, we can just concentrate on making a very important table for the examination. Shankara, Madhava, Ramanuja, Vallabha, all we will discuss. But you need a certain context for it. And I don't do it here because if I start to go into Purusha, Prakriti, Advaita, Dvaita, knowledge, right, wrong, this, that, then it becomes very heavy with Bhakti Sufi. So I'm just going to write their important details which you need to remember for the examination. We will understand these things later. Acceptable? Come on. Acceptable? Yes. Okay. So Okay. Hmm. Shankaracharya. Very important Bhakti saint, gave a totally new orientation to Hinduism. What is his basic idea? Advaita and Nirguna Brahmana. Now the problem is, just take it. Advait, Nirguna Brahman. I will tell you what this means, Nirguna Brahman and Advait, which is that there's only one reality, everything is an illusion. So, just to give you a basic idea, reality in the world is denied. Brahma, this is basically Brahma. Brahma is considered the only reality. It is only Brahma or Brahma which is reality itself. Laid emphasis on Gyan for salvation. Can't understand? Don't try to understand. Do not try to understand, because you need a lot of backstory in this. What you need to remember is Advaita, Gyan, and devotion. This much you can understand. I'm not explaining you something, so you will obviously not understand, because I don't need to, I don't want to rather go into it. So he wrote the following texts: 1, 2, 3, and he also wrote commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, and Upanishads. Has important mathas which are centers of learning for him in Dwarka, Puri, in Badrinath, and Sringeri. Now, just go with it. Just go with it. According to him, just to give you a very simple idea, according to him, only God is real. Whatever you see around you is actually an illusion. Maya jisko bolte hain, Maya moh. So only when you realize that everything around you is an illusion and God is one, then you start to actually go for salvation. This is the basic idea of Advaita. Advaita talks about oneness. One God, one Brahma. Only thing which is real is Brahma, which is God. Everything else is Moh and Maya. Asta channelish. Let's leave it for 6 schools of philosophy. Are you getting my point? Why I don't want to go into it? Because then the discussion totally goes in a different way altogether. Right? Can I go to Ramanuja? Can I go to Ramanuja? Ramanuja, can I go? Yes, good. Okay. Now, Ramanujacharya, his understanding is called Vishisht Advaita, qualified monoism, according to which God is Saguna Brahman and creative process includes all objects in creation are real, not illusionary. Again, he has an opposite perspective to Shankara Deva. According to Ramanuja, God, soul, matter, all are real. God is inner substance, rest are attributes. Advocated now. Prabhati marg of or path of self-surrender to God. He invited downtrodden people to Vaishnavism and salvation through bhakti. Authored one Shri Bhashya, Vedanta Deepa, Gita Bhashya, and Vedanta Sara. So we will add here Vishisht Advaita Prabhati Marga. Now leave it for the discussion when we do it later. What is Vishisht Advaita? Okay. Thereafter, you have Madhavacharya. He was the one who preached Dvaita, dualism of Jivatma and Paramatma, and his philosophy: world is not an illusion but reality and full of real distinctions. God, soul, matter are unique. and irreducible. And he founded the Brahma Sampradaya, the Brahma Sampradaya, the Brahma, what we call as the people who worship Brahma. He's the one who started it. So, Madhva Charya Dvaita Brahma Sampradaya. Brahma Sampradaya. Then Nimbarka. He was the younger contemporary of Ramanuja, proposed Dvaita Advaita philosophy, and philosophy is based on Bheda Abheda. Believes that world and Brahma are both equally real. World is part of Brahma. So you have Nimbarka, Dvaita Advaita, Bheda Abheda philosophy. And last but not the least is Vallabhacharya. He talks about doctrine of bhakti through Lord Krishna, who he calls Srinathji, and his understanding is Pushti Marga, the path that teaches devotees how to have selfless love for Lord Vishnu. So, Vallabhacharya, Pushti Marga, Pushti Marga. Pushti Marg, and it's about devotion. Can you remember this basic table right now? Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, Advaita, Dvaita, Advaita, Pushti Marg. If you can, the work is done for this sector, because the philosophy part I want to stay away from right now, because that is something I have to teach you first. I have to teach you yoga, Sankhya, then Mimamsa, and then it will make sense. Are we in a position to learn this table? And can you right now trust me with regards to that? I will teach you what these things mean, but for that I need context. Yes? Yes. Okay. Now, I will teach you, don't worry. All of this will be taught. Philosophy, interesting section, but equally have to understand it. Now, and you can, and I can give you a guarantee, whatever facts I've underlined and put it into a box, you can answer any question in the examination. Now, mat means place where you have your center of learning. Mat. Now this is basically related to current affairs. Lingayats, you would have heard, were in the news. Lingayats. They were in the news, and they are basically related to Basavana's Veerashaivism. So here again, standard questions are asked, wherein the person who started the Lingayat movement or Veerashaivism is a person called Basavana, a Brahmin. He was the minister of a Kalchuri king. This is where they actually play the game with. They will write Kakatiya king, Chalukya king, this king, that king, Kalchuri king. And he was one of the most ardent followers of the Veerashivas or the Lingayats, the devout followers of Shiva. Now, Lingayats have certain very interesting distinctions or very interesting features. First, challenge caste system and pollution. That is something which is the concept of pollution, the concept of purity and pollution, something Bhakti movement is generally questioned the theory of rebirth, won over their followers who were mostly from the marginalized section of Brahmanical social order. They were the ones who basically had socio-religious reform impulse, because they was talking about what is called post puberty marriage, which is basically no child marriage and widow remarriage. And very simply, they divide the tradition. The most important book is the Vachana, which is written in Kannada. And another important feature of the Lingayats is they bury their dead, not cremate. Very interesting thing. They bury rather than cremate. So the Lingayats, and there was a major controversy and a whole thing which was happening in the court, wherein Lingayats were arguing that they're not part of Hinduism, but there were certain sections that they're a part of Hinduism. Simple point is, Lingayat movement was a movement within Hinduism where they started to change their basic traditions. They started to change their basic traditions. It is not complicated, but the way the question will be asked is, did they have socialist reform impulse? Yes, they had. And they will always talk about Basavana and play with the minister in the court of which ruler. And the name of that or the ruler dynasty, this is the dynasty, is Kalchuri dynasty. Can we remember Kalchuri, Lingayat, Basavana, Bari, socio-religious reform impulse? Anybody has any issue here? Very descriptive area, factual, can't help it. I'm trying to steer it in a way so that you don't have to worry in the examination to go to any other source. You can see everything is very comprehensively given. Post puberty marriage means that no child marriage. Listen to me, Vivek, you don't listen. I've said it twice now. So listen, no child marriage. Can I move forward and talk about the Marathi saints who allowed for Bhakti movement to go to North India, where we will get multiple important saints? Yes? Yes, no, have to say something. Okay, now, as I said, Maharashtra saints or Marathi saints played a very important role in spreading Bhakti because they had access to South Indian knowledge, South Indian texts also, and they had the understanding to read them and spread it to North India. So it is in the 13th to 17th century that a number of Marathi saints spread the ideas of South Indian Bhakti to North India, that allowed for the North Indian Bhakti movement to start. One of the most celebrated of all Marathi saints, Gyaneshwar, written like this also, Namdev, Eknath, Tukaram, one of the most important. Then you also have Sukhabai, and the distinction of Sukhabai is that she comes from a family of untouchables, and therefore you have Sukhabai, the family of Chokamela, who belong to the untouchable caste itself. So they are again coming from that area. Thereafter, their focus, their bhakti was focused on a form of Lord Vishnu or an avatar of Lord Vishnu, which is Vithala, Vinpandharpur, and this is what something started to spread in North India. But the most important contribution of the Marathi saints is one thing, very, very, very important thing. Marathi saints argued one thing. See, the Allavar saints renounced. The Nayanar saints renounced. The saints, for example, previously used to renounce. But can an everyday person renounce his family, his life, his house, his work, and everything and do bhakti? No. Marathi saints argued that devotion does not need renunciation. that you do not need to give up on everything to become a real devotee. This is revolutionary because they rejected ritualism, they rejected outward display of piety, social differentiation based on birth. But they also rejected the idea of renunciation and preferred to live in their families, earn their livelihood, while humbly serving the fellow human beings and being a devotee of God. We are what we are today of because of the Marathi saints. Because they argued that bhakti is not a subset of renunciation. That only if you renounce everything in the world, that you are a true bhakti or saint, or you're a true saint in that regard. No, you can serve your people, you can serve your family, and you can serve God also. This is a very important concept which comes through, and they allowed for a new understanding to develop in the Indian society, and therefore they changed the landscape of bhakti and renunciation and devotion in India generally. This allows for everyone to be a part of bhakti movement. Now everyone can be a part of the bhakti movement because now you are very simply a totally different person rather than renouncing something. Get my point? Why is this so significant? Because renunciation was something which not everybody can do, but this everybody can do. Now, based on the ideas of the Bhakti saints, the first major North Indian Bhakti saint was Saint Ramanand, who taught in Hindavi or preached in Hindavi. Hindavi is a mixture of Hindi, Braj, plus some parts of Urdu, some parts of regional dialects. For him, he preached that no one was big or small, everyone was equal in the eyes of God, and no caste distinctions could actually stop him from taking his followers. He had 12 very important disciples who later became very important saints. One was a barber, one was a weaver, one was a cobbler, but Kabir and Padmavati were also very, very important followers of Ramananda. Kabir will emerge as a very important critique of the Indian society. And this is why Ramananda is considered as an important link between how Marathi saints were able to transfer the ideas to North India. Now, when we talk about Kabir, Kabir is a very important example of Nirgun Bhakti. His dohas are not for devotion, but he is a it is social commentary. He criticizes the evil practices in the Indian society. Sometimes extremely cryptic, sometimes just destroying the concept itself. So Kabir, 5th and 6th century, most influential saint. We believe that he belonged to a weaver's Muslim Julaha family. We have little reliable information about his origin. Some people say he's a Hindu, some people say he's a Muslim, does not matter. A whole compilation of his verses and his sakhis and pads and dohas are actually mentioned in multiple places, You now use it in bhajan, but even the Guru Granth Sahib, the Panchvach Vani, and the Bijak, other important texts, refer to Kabir in that regard. And the point is that why is Kabir so important? Kabir is important because he preached both to Hindus and Muslims, and very simply, he said that no one is different, everyone is equal. Idol worship and rituals and ceremonies are useless. He said that he fully rejected religious traditions, openly ridiculed the practices of Hinduism and Islam, and more than that, he used the common language to talk about how there are certain social evils in the Indian society. So he was using Hindi, he was using Hindavi, sometimes extremely cryptic. Kabir believed in formless supreme God, preached that only path was bhakti, drew both on Hindus and Muslims, taught that Allah, Ishwar, Ram, Rahim, all are the same. And the people who followed him are called Kabir Panthis, and his teachings have been very simply compiled in Bijak. Now, please understand one point. The UPSC plays with it. Bijak was not written by Kabir, it was compiled by his followers. Please understand this point. He did not write it. People after his death compiled it. So we have discussed Ramanand, Kabir. Kabir, the only proper Nirgun saint. Anybody has any issue? Vivek, I'm answering the exact same question. Who wrote it? His followers. Listen, wait, patience. Okay. Right? Now, little bit of pain after this section is over. Now we have Saint Chaitanya and the most important contribution. Bhajan, Kirtan, singing and dance made part of bhakti. Very, very popular in the Bengal sector, educated in Sanskrit also. He renounced at 24 his worldly life, became a sannyasi, and then started to talk about bhakti. His followers regarded him as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and he wanted to help the needy and the old. Said inequality of caste distinction and caste system is wrong. Tolerance, humility, love. Now tell me one thing. This point, is this specific to Chaitanya or everyone of the Bhakti movement? This point. Specific or all? Everyone. So if you are able to write this line in the examination, 110% you will be right. So don't learn it for just one person. This is true for everyone. This is how you write a mains answer. You know that this point is going to be clear for everybody. So write it. Once you learn it, if you don't have anything to write for that person, just write this. It will be most probably right. Then spread bhakti in Bengal. Popularize public singing of God name, what is called Sankirtan. Sankirtan, Kirtan. Then Tulsidas, we already know, the most celebrated saint and devotee of Lord Rama, wrote the Ramayana Hindavi. And the most important, Janki Mangal and Parvati Mangal, two very important texts other than the Ramayana. And he was the one who used to talk about morals and values and emphasize the duty of a son towards his father and the relationship between teacher and student. And more than that, how a king also is connected to his people. So it was about relationships of hierarchy and their responsibilities to each other. Thereafter, you have Guru Ramdas. Guru Ramdas, the most important thing about him was famous teacher, and Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was a follower of Guru Ramdas, talked about the fact that everyone was the same and God's favor was the way through which we go move forward, and bhakti was the means for it. Then you have Tukaram, very important. His abhagyas till today are read and are very, very important for bhakti movement in the Marathi sector. And he again said one God, and he was merciful and protective. Gyaneshwar, again Maharashtra, worshipped Lord Vishnu. He translated the Bhagavad Gita into Marathi language, and this book is called Gyaneshwari. This was called Gyaneshwari. Last two, Mirabai, we all know Lord Krishna. One thing about very peculiar about Mirabai was that when she was alive, she did not have a lot of followers. It was actually after she died that she got a lot of followers. When she was alive, not a lot of followers. Later, she has a lot of followers. We know that she comes from a Rajput background. She was a princess, married to the Rajput princess from Merta in Marwar, married to, against her wishes, to the Sisodia clan of Mewar. And we know that she was also given poison. We also know that she was given poison from her in-laws family because she was badly in love with Lord Krishna. But because of the devotion to Lord Krishna, she survived it and then ran away from the palace and wandered the the uh, the whole sector, singing and talking about Lord Krishna. And though when she was, as I said, alive, not a lot of followers, later she had a very good following. Last but not the least, Dadu Dayal, disciple of Kabir, again Nirgun, Hindu Muslim unity. Dadu Panthi are the followers. Dadu Ram Ki Bani is his teachings. Just to close this topic, and I'll give you a break. The point is, I have given you this map. This map gives you the time period and the location of all Bhakti saints. So I hope this will help you in understanding the basic ideas, where they operated. It's about where they operated. Thereafter, I've also given you this, which is that all women saints are in one place. So you can read this and it will help you in the examination generally. 1, 2, and this is the timeline of them as per the NCERT. As per the NCERT. These three are for your reference. This is just to give you understanding. I hope with this we can finish this section and medieval India is over. Yes, Bhakti and Sufi is done. Factual area, but you saw very, very descriptive, given you as much detail as possible so that you can write a better answer also. Yes? Can we take a break? And I can now successfully say that ancient and medieval are done and we start art and culture once we come back, previous year questions and then art and culture. I'll give you a 15 minutes break, don't worry, because now your orientation needs to change. Yes? Is everybody with me and everybody alive and clear? Have we all survived ancient and medieval? Do you now fear ancient and medieval? When you started with me, there were certain preconceptions, certain issues in your mind. We have now covered ancient and medieval. Does anybody still have a fear of ancient and medieval? If you still have, this is the easiest it can be. No unnecessary facts, nothing to be learned which is unnecessary out of the book. PPT plus art and PPT plus NCERT more than enough. So we will take a break here. We'll talk about this chapter comes both Avni in medieval and art and culture both. You need revision. That is true. Just need revision. Conceptual clarity I have given you. You just need revision. That's it. That is it. That is the only point. Now we take a break here. Once we come back, we enter art and culture. Officially, I will tell you what is the syllabus, how do we cover it, what is the structure, how many modules are there. And for once I've introduced that to you, I will do previous year questions and then start art and culture. So we come back at what? It is 11. It is 3:25. We come back at 3:35, 40, 3:40, 3:40, and we go forward with art and culture. Give you time to rest, drink something, change your orientation. Factual does not matter now, conceptual matters now. See you at 3:40. Okay, welcome back. As always, yes, I was signing off on the questions for this week, so it took me 7 minutes more. I'm sorry about that. Okay. And I think from next week, you will also start to get mains questions from my side. Because now we are entering art and culture. So we'll be doing mains and prelims questions both. I hope you have been basically attempting the questions which are coming to you on the weekly basis. Are you doing those questions? Yes. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's do our previous year questions, and then we will go to art and culture. We've done this. We've done this. Okay. Come on. Regarding the taxation system of Krishna Deva, the ruler of Vijayanagara, consider the following statements. The tax rate on land was fixed depending on the quality of land. Private owners of workshops paid an industry's tax. Which of the following statements are correct? Come on. 2 to 3 questions, interesting ones, and then we'll move forward. Okay. 51% totally correct. 13%, 10%, 26%. So a lot of you have rejected second statement. Can anybody tell me out of this 26% and 13%, why have you rejected A and D, who have answered A and D? Why have you rejected the second statement? Anyone? See, the answer here is both 1 and 2, obviously. See, did he tax on the quality of land? Totally correct. We know that. Vijayanagara, taxation based on quality of land was there. Now, I'll tell you why you rejected the second statement. Because of this word. Yes or no? The people who have answered A and D, you have rejected this because of this word, exact word. And what you did was, see, in a way you are right, but the problem is the examiner who made this question had a very limited vocabulary. So what he did was that private owners of workshop pay a tax. Now, what you thought was industries cannot exist in Vijayanagara period, industrial revolution. You went till Britain and then you thought about the machines working. But the examiner rather just used this tax to argue that any form of manufacturing can be called as industries. Therefore, workshops and craftsmen are also part of industry. This statement is correct, but I understand that this term is not fully correct. But the problem is that for the examiner, it is correct because he's used a very loose term, industries tax. He's not used a specific term, but he's used a very loose term, industries. This can be overcome by doing more and more question, but I will not blame you here because the wording matters. And if you answered A and D, a little bit off you are according to the examiner's understanding and your understanding. But a doable question based again on basic understanding. This we've already done. This we've done. Now, in the revenue administration of Delhi Sultanate, the in charge of revenue collection was known as Amil. The Ikta system of the Sultans of Delhi was an ancient indigenous institution. The office of Mir Bakshi came into existence during the reign of Khilji Sultans of Delhi. So, I'm giving you more time to read because three statement question. The exact time you will get in the examination. Let's see if you're able to get it right. In the examination, you will get exactly 2 minutes to answer every question. I'm giving you that much time so that you cannot say that I was rushed. Giving you 2 minutes, read it and answer. Come on. Seems like a lot of time, but actually, in the examination, every 2 minutes is very, very critical. 39%, 22, 24, 15. Good spread that way. Okay. The next biggest is 3 only. Okay. Tell me one thing. Revenue collector is Amil, yes or no? Amin is the assessor. Collector is Amil. This is correct. This goes out of the picture. Now tell me one thing. ICTA is an ancient Indian institution. Mir Bakshi is not a term of Khiljis. It is a term for Mughal India. Amil Amin, understand Avni. Amil Amin is not a term specific to Mughal India. It is there since medieval, since Delhi Sultanate. Now, very simply, tell me one thing. What is the name of the office of Mir Bakshi in Delhi Sultanate? That is more important. Did you see this? Remember this term? कहीं देखा है इसको? Have you seen this term somewhere? Ariz e Mumamlik, Diwan e Ariz. This is the term for Delhi Sultanate. Mir Baksh is a term for Mughal India. Amil and Amin is a term which is there throughout the period, and this is not an indigenous institution. It's a old ancient institution of Central Asia, not India. So very simply, only one is correct. Only one is correct. Now this is again called a conceptual question. It needs your application of understanding. It's a conceptual question with a little bit of sprinkling of standard words in and around it. Now, with reference to medieval India, which one of the following is the correct sequence in ascending order in terms of size? This is 2023 question. Ascending order. One second. Kashish, ascending order. Perfect. 24% of you have written descending. Idea is exactly right, but 24% have got it wrong. Ascending means smallest to biggest. Descending means biggest to smallest. So A is the answer. Smallest Pargana, Sarkar, Suba. This is just the opposite of it, which is descending. This was wrong because Suba is in between. This is wrong because Sarkar is in between, or is in the starting. So whoever has answered C, 1 to 9 is ascending, 9 to 1 is descending. Now this is called, for the people who answered C, this is called silly mistake. You knew the answer, you knew the way to do it also, you just did not know what this means. That is a little bit careful in the examination. Now, it was during the reign of Iltutmish that Genghis Khan reached the Indus in the pursuit of a fugitive Khwarizmi prince. It was during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq that Timur occupied Multan and crossed the Indus. It was in the reign of Devraya II of Vijayanagara that Vasco da Gama reached the coast of Kerala. Tell me which of these statements is correct. Again, giving you 2 minutes. Read it, take your time, don't answer in a haste. It will be in front of you, so don't have to worry. Come on. This is, I think, 2022 question. 40% A, B 1 and 2, 10, 15. I'll show you leaderboard, not an issue. Tell me one thing. Iltutmish stopped Genghis Khan, Khwarizmi prince. Jalaluddin. Now you get it why I tell you those stories. UPSC has now made it a point to ask questions from this area. So that is why I tell you stories, and those stories matter in that regard. So this is correct. Anybody has any issue in not remembering this part? Now by this, we automatically get to know one thing, which is that third is incorrect. Which is that Vijayanagara Empire, Vasco da Gama did not reach in Devraya II. Under whom did he reach? Under whom? Zamorian. Yes, but Zamorian. Who is the king sitting on the throne of Vijayanagara? Remember his name? Imadi Narsimha. Need revision? No issues. Now, it was the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq that Timur reached Multan. Muhammad bin Tughlaq is 1450. He dies in 1450. Maximum 1450. Sorry, not 1450. Yeah. Timur is what? Timur period is what? 1350, 1398. So, very simply, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was not the ruler when Timur came. Can anybody tell me the name of the ruler when Timur came? Very good, Himanshu. Nasiruddin Mahmud Tughlaq. Now you tell me one thing. Very simply tell me one thing. Have we done all of this in class? Have we? So then what do you need to answer this question? What do you need to answer this question? Revision. That is it. Revision. Questions are not asked out of extraordinary detail. They're being asked out of standard details which we have done. Just need a little bit of revision. I'm trying to break your fear of medieval because these questions in the examination seem to be very difficult. But if you have basic knowledge even of medieval India, you can answer these questions and get 2 marks. There's no point leaving medieval or ancient. These are free marks available. Okay. Now, this is the latest question. This has 2 answers. We'll talk about it. The first Mongol invasion of India happened during Jalaluddin Khilji. During the reign of Alauddin Khilji, one Mongol assault marched up to Delhi and besieged the city. Muhammad bin Tughlaq temporarily lost portion of northwestern of his kingdom to Mongols. You see, back-to-back Mongol questions have come. Now, giving you time. In this, there can be 2 answers. That is totally fine. Like this, then you have to read the newspaper, read more books. Vocabulary issue can only be resolved by reading newspaper. You have to read more. The more you read, the better you become. Very good if you read Hindu. You have to make it a habit. See, the simple point is UPSC will always give big words. But basic reading of the newspaper should help you. 41%. See, if you are 26%, B and D, C and D, I take it correct. A and B, I have a problem with. Now, Alauddin Khilji lost to the Mongols. Did I ever talk about it? Having a standing army with market reforms, Alauddin Khilji would have lost to a Mongol. Now comes the two statements. Did Muhammad bin Tughlaq lose certain parts of his kingdom to a Mongol? What was the name of that Mongol? What was the name of that Mongol? We've done it already. Yes. Tamra Shirin. Totally correct. Now, this is the easy part. The problem is now the next statement, which is the first Mongol invasion of India happened under the reign of Jalaluddin Khilji. Yes, you have Dawa Khan and Kutluk Khwaja. The problem is now, what do you mean by first? If they mean some Mongol crossing the Indus River, then C is correct. But if it is about coming till the Indus River, then this is correct. Because then the first invasion would be under whom? The first Mongol invasion happened under whom? If we just take it as into Indus. Very good. Iltutmish. Then it becomes Iltutmish. Now the problem is this only. That if we go with this question, it says reign of Iltutmish reached Indus. Here it is saying first Mongol invasion. Now this we will only get to know when the official answer is going to come out. That is it C or D? Most probably it is C, but there's a chance it can be D also. It can be D also. So now the point is very simple. Can be anything. Abdullah is Jalaluddin Khilji. Thereafter, Dawa Khan, Kutluk Khwaja. These three are involved with the Khiljis. None of them defeated the Khiljis. So very simply, second is incorrect. We know that. Now the point is first correct or incorrect? We don't know. But again, if you have been through these classes, does any of this statement seem to be new? Balban again diplomatically never allowed them to cross the Indus River. These are not new things. This is not new. But if you leave these sections, then it is a problem. How is 3 correct? Tamra Shirin reached till Delhi, Muhammad bin Tughlaq lost a lot of territory in the northwest to him. The only or the first major Mongol to reach till Delhi was Tamra Shirin only. These are very standard things. If you remember, I gave you a whole list of it. So this area has now become a little bit more favorite of UPSC. Very easy. I used to do it for the past 5 years. Any of my students did not find this very difficult. But he was defeated. When did I say he was defeated? Ishfaq, were you there in class? Did I say in class that Tamra Shirin was defeated by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, or Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the only one to be defeated by a Mongol? Which one did I say? Muhammad bin Tughlaq got defeated. Yes. He got defeated. Ishfaq, go back to class. You will realize that I've said that Tamrashinin reached till Delhi. That means Muhammad bin Tughlaq was defeated. So Tughlaq's lost. That is the basic point. Some of you have asked for the leaderboard. Sure. Himanshu, 40. This is, I think, since the morning, whatever questions we've taken. Then you have Arpita. A lot of you are not even participating, but sure, why not? Arpita has never asked me anything in class. So she's the silent angels, or the what we call as the nothing. Moni Babas of class, but very good when it comes to answering questions. Neha, Mansi, Vivek, Janita, Samishtha. This is based on fastest finger first. All of you have the same number, but it's just that whoever has answered quickly have got it. Then Ishfaq 30, Anu 30. Thereafter Kunal, Neil, Vishal, Nitin, then Anand, Narendra, Akanksha Tyagi, Shubham, Mayuri, Kashish, Shushmita, then Amit Pandey. First 15, 16 or 17 it shows to me. I am showing it to you also. So great. Done. Can we now start art and culture? Everybody is comfortable with medieval India. Nobody has any issues. You want to call me? You want to say something? Neha, you called me. Should I call you back? You want to talk about something? Say yes or no in the chat section once. I am now going to, yes, you want to talk. Okay. I am now opening it for call because after this, no questions from ancient medieval. I presume that you know ancient medieval. Okay. Yeah. I've sent you a request. It should be ringing on your side. Rafia, send me a request. I can't call you. You have to. Kunal also send a request. Neha, you're not picking up. Rafia, I have got your request. Kunal, I've got your request. I'll call you. First time my name in leaderboard. Good motivation. Very good, Kashish. I'll put in your name in leaderboard. Last question, correct option. Either C or D both. Okay. Neha, you did not pick. You need a microphone connected to your laptop or something so that I can hear you and you can pick the call. Kunal, I'm calling you.
Hello.
Yes, Kunal.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes. Fully audible. You should be audible to everyone.
Okay. Sir,
Yeah.
I have a question a bit dedicated from the course which we are going through. Sir, I have a question that there is a tantric profession in Hinduism also. And
Hmm.
when did it came to limelight, or when it came to the main front or main line? As
Okay. Okay. And anything else?
sir, this is only the only question, sir.
See, the answer to that question is, if you remember, I told you about Vajrayanic Buddhism.
Yes,
Did
sir.
I? So Vajrayanic Buddhism picks up from Tantricism. Tantricism and Puranic Hinduism and Bhagavatism are more or less all Gupta period.
Okay, sir.
So Gupta period is when Vajrayanic Buddhism and along with that Tantricism plus Bhagavatism and Puranic Hinduism all will come at the same point of time.
Sir,
This is
so sir, the gods like Bhairava and the Mahavidyas that we worship, they
hmm.
came during this period only, or before that also?
See, the text could have been there previously,
Okay.
but this what you're asking me is actually not even optional, but academic level. Upinder Singh has a whole chapter on this Tantricism, and if you want to read, I recommend you the chapter on Gupta, post Gupta of Upinder. It will have a lot of stuff. Point is, text may have been compiled over 50 to 60 or 100 years before it, but the practice starts in Gupta period, which is basically your 3rd, 4th century CE.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Kunal. Thank you. Rafia, send me the request again. You cancelled your request for some reason. I got it. Now I'm calling. I have seen there's a certain issue with you when you are not able to pick. I hope this time you're able to pick or not. Sir, I did D, but incorrect as per. That I know, Shushmita. No issues. No issue. You are also 40 out of 40. Don't worry. Again, It's ringing from my side. Kunal picked it up. For some reason, you're not able to pick up. That may be an issue in maybe my server also. It could be in yours also. Either way, call got cancelled. So Rafia, you just send me a request. Yeah, you send me a request again. I'm now calling you back again. Anybody else who wants to talk? Vivek, I know that you have a certain issue. Again, it could be specific to you. Neha, I'll take up your call after this. Call rejected. Rafia, you cancelled my call. Neha, I'm calling you again. Again, Neha, Rafia, I think certain issue with your system because it's ringing from my side. Anyone else? We can try luck. Kunal got through. Rafia and Neha are not able to. Again, Rafia calling you. Which book for art and culture, Prachi? I'll tell you that. Okay, this is the last call for anybody who wants to call. So just small clarification, Pallavas and Indo-Scythians, they're the same. Indo-Parthenon or what we call as Saka Pallavas are the same people. It seems error from Baiju's end, huh? It is always our fault, so we'll get it sorted, don't worry. Nitin Singhani, I'll tell you, don't worry. Abhinav, I will get that sorted. I'll get that sorted. Can we now start then ancient art and culture? Everybody has tried. Rafia and Neha, I'm sorry, I'm not able to, or there is some issue. Kunal is getting through, which means that my server is not that problematic. But let's see. Let's see. Can we start art and culture? Yes. Okay. So now, very simply, we are entering a very important zone of your preparation, which is art and culture. People tend to argue, leave ancient and medieval. That is already suicidal. But leaving art and culture is for sure making sure that you will never clear this examination. Because in the examination, 5 to 6 questions in the prelims, which is 10 to 12 marks, which is quite a lot, and 2 to 5 questions in the mains examination, we have seen on an average 2 to 3 for sure, which is again close to 45 to 50 marks, is going to be there for sure. So nobody has ever cleared this examination by ignoring art and culture. And if they are claiming to do so, then they are misleading you. Perfect, Shushmita. Great. Very happy to hear that. Okay. So, very simply, I do not need to emphasize enough. That art and culture, don't be a fool. So, we all agree that art and culture is something you cannot ignore. But what most of the students do wrong is that they do ancient and don't do ancient medieval, and they do art and culture separately. And they will open a very famous book, though problematic also, called Nitin Singhania. They will open the first chapter. I can predict it would have happened with you also. You will open the first chapter, 92 pages. That first chapter is architecture. You will first enthusiastically mark everything. Then by the 30th, 40th page, you will start to realize, why am I doing this? What is the problem in my life? The tube light looks better. The fan is making noise. anything other than that page will seem to be more interesting. Then you will try to go to another chapter, to the same, close this book and open it again before the examination, because somebody told you that art and culture cannot be ignored. Standard process, everybody goes through it. And half of it is because nobody has a clue who is Pallava, who is, for example, Jahangir, what is the concept of Shah Jahan, who are the Guptas, who are Cholas, which Chola they are. Half of the issue is that issue should not be there with you. First things first, because you have not done it the wrong way, you've done it the right way, which is to do ancient and medieval with me first. And therefore, for me the timeline is clear. I will revise the timeline with you. And if there is popular demand, I will even give you the timeline for modern India, little bit what we call as basic timeline. And then do art and culture, then it actually makes sense. Second is, if you open Nitin Singhania and do it the way he has written it, you will for sure faint. Because what does Nitin Singhania do? He does, he has architecture, or everything in architecture. He has painting, everything in painting. He has the way of covering everything in that. I will not go like that. I will not go like that. See, there are 10 modules. There are 10 modules in our course of art and culture. PPT plus Nitin Singhania is a must. But there's a rider. Nitin Singhania is for revision and not for learning. Problem is, people will see I've seen a lot of people say, go to CCRT website, open this book, open that book. Problem is that Nitin Singhania is a necessary evil. Nitin Singhania is a necessary evil which you cannot ignore. And till my book does not come through, which is within a month or so, you have no other alternative. So the simple point of the matter is, Nitin Singhania cannot be ignored as of right now. So the students who are sitting here to listen to me say, leave Nitin Singhania, I'm sorry. Extremely sorry. Hand over heart, can't say that. First thing. But I will tell you how to tackle it for sure. Now, the first four modules, I'll Sushmit tell you once the book is available. I'll send you the Amazon and Flipkart link. Don't worry about that. You would have to buy it. Nothing related to Byju's. It's you and me. Nothing. There's no intermediary in between. It's you and me. Now, 10 modules. First and second module, or the first module itself, is architecture. We will start with Indus Valley, Mauryan, thereafter the concept of caves, stupa, and then the most important, temple architecture. Then we will transition to the second phase of architecture, which is Delhi Sultanate, Mughal, regional. So architecture will take the most amount of time for us, because most amount of questions come out of architecture in the mains examination. Once we are done with architecture, we will move to sculpture and paintings. Now, unlike Nitin Singhania, where what he's done is that if he's discussing cholas, he will discuss architecture also, sculpture, pottery, everything one place. No. Every module starts from where it needs to start. Indus Valley civilization for architecture, sculpture we will start not there. We'll start with Harappa. And then paintings we will not start there. We'll start with Upper Paleolithic. I do not cover period by period, that Maurya, all architecture together, all sculpture together. That will overload you. Rather go thematically. Because if you go thematically, you will always remember it and it will always help you also. Please understand this point. The question will never be give the contribution, all contributions of Mauryas. They will ask you discuss the evolution of painting tradition in India. That can only be done if you know how it is evolving. Last time we saw a question of the cultural contribution of Guptas and Cholas. Now, here what you need to do is you need to take out from each thematic what is relevant. That is easier than the way Nitin Singhani has done it. This is the first way we are distinct, and my approach is different than the book itself. And it will make more sense because you are looking at continuity and change in one timeline itself. Once we've done with these, what are called the big three: sculpture, painting, schools of art, Mughal painting, the cave painting traditions, the painting which is there in the prehistoric period, when we saw the sculpture, lost wax technique, chola, everything. This is where most of the questions come out of. This is more of the mains areas. Once we've covered with the big three, then come the lighter modules. Unfortunately, what students do, and this is a major strategic error, is that they judge art and culture by the modules which actually give you one question, than the modules which actually give you 5 to 10 questions. Wherein, what they will do is that they will look at dance, music, puppetry, theater, martial arts. We will do what we call as folk paintings. These are the chutmut topics, as I say them. The big three, these are chutmut topics. Puppetry, 7. Theater, 10. Martial arts, 6. Folk paintings, 7. Dance, 8. Music, 2. But what students will do, they will open the list and say, so many martial arts, how can I learn? We'll learn it in class itself. I will do it with you in class. We will revise twice before we leave the session. Thereafter, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Here, schools of philosophy, UNESCO, World Heritage, both tangible and intangible, plus numismatics, the foreign travelers, texts, literature. We will also cover smaller topics. For example, we'll go through cultural institutions, what we call as classical language. We'll also cover current affairs. And 10, we'll do miscellaneous topics. Ports, these, that. I will bring Nitin Singhania in class in front of you. And I will ask you after covering all of this, is any chapter left or not? That is my promise to you. Scripts and languages of India. Have we covered previously? Have we covered scripts and languages of India? We have Devanagari, Brahmi, Khoroshti, Bostofenden, we've done Prakrit, Pali, Sanskrit, we've discussed even Tamil, Old Tamil, first thing. Then, second, have we covered Buddhism and Jainism? Yes. And we have covered Bhakti and Sufi. So, in a way, we've already covered some parts of culture. Now, what we will do is, and I will give you all lists, don't worry. In art and culture, 50% is mains plus prelims, 60%, and 40% is only prelims. In the sense, theater, martial arts, folk paintings, dance, music, puppetry, these things come in prelims. Mains, we don't expect a question. Religions of India, you've already done. Buddhism, Jainism, Islam, Christianity. There are unnecessary chapters. You would have seen, one of you asked me, sir, that I have the third edition of the book and the fourth edition, should I buy? Third and fourth edition, the difference is there's one chapter called Inscriptions in India. Have we done inscriptions previously? Have we done inscriptions? Have we talked about rock edicts? Have we talked about Iran? Have we talked about the Junagadh inscription? Have we talked about the Chandragupta II Vikramaditya's iron pillar? We have. You don't know it. You have already covered a lot of things with me. Don't need to buy the new edition. If needed, I will tell you what to learn from the newer chapters. So don't have to worry about that. Trust me, after this, art and culture will not be a problem for you. So very simply, art and culture is the most important thing which you will learn in the three things we've done, ancient medieval. And because you know ancient medieval, we will be better equipped to do art and culture also. If the modules are clear, you can go through this NCERT. Already I've taken the major points, but this is a good NCERT. This is the fine arts NCERT, class 11th and 12th. But PPT plus Nitin Singhania, there is no alternative. If these two things are clear, then we can move. I can give you a refresher with regards to timelines, and we can then start art and culture. First module, which is in architecture, Indus Valley civilization. But my optional is history, if kept that in mind. Abhinav, the problem is in optional history, art and culture is not a major portion. You get art and culture questions, but there's no specific portion in art and culture, wherein you have ancient, medieval, world history, and modern as four basic big areas. Art and culture is not specified in the PPT, in the syllabus. So the orientation is totally different. In GS, art and culture, ancient, medieval, art and culture is very well defined, along with world history and post-independence and modern. But in GS, world history is not important. One question you will get maximum. But in optional, you have whole second paper, half of it is what we call as world history. So there's a different approach for both in that regard. Totally different approach for both. It will help you, but there is a fundamental difference between how it is actually done. How it is actually done. Okay. Now, just to give you a refresher of the timelines, when it will be appropriate to finish history optional. See, this question is a good question for anybody who is doing optional. Sorry, I'm digressing, but a good question, important question. Anybody who is doing optional, by January, February, Optional should be done. Cannot be doing optional in the last 4 months. Remember this point: geography, PSIR, history, any optional. Optional preparation should end with this year only, because you have to go for prelims orientation along with all GS. Yes, along with all GS. By December, your mains specific areas. By December, mains specific areas, which is basically world history, post independence, disaster management, ethics, essay. Uh, you have internal security. This should be done. Plus optional. Plus mains level polity, geography, history, economics should be done. Science and tech, environment. Basically, mains level should be done by January for sure. And then from January to the examination May, you should be more towards prelims plus question paper practice. Even if you are doing left this out, this should be done, so that you're not in the last 120 days wasting time over mains things which will not come in the prelims examination. Shubham, I'm in history optional paper 2, not paper 1. That was not under my control. How many months does it take for anthro optional? Any optional, same thing. 3 to 6 months it takes for any optional. 3 to 6 matters on your level. If you are from history honors, you will take 3 months. If you have no idea about history, 6 months. I take it as maximum 4 to 5 months. Right? So I believe that by January, February, you should be 3 months. Anthro is a smaller subject but technical, so it needs your understanding. Simple point is January, February maximum. I have seen people doing answer writing practice in April. Don't do that. Answer writing and everything should be done by January last week. That's it. That is the last cutoff you have. At least how many times should we revise optional till December? Even 1 to 2 times is good enough. See, because if you will sit once the prelims result is going to come to do optional, nobody can do it. So very simply, this is basically your preparation to make sure that when the 3 months will come between prelims and mains, you will be able to do it. So understand that. So very simply, last week, February, it's okay. The point is not that. February, March, April, May, 3 months you're giving, 90 days. The more time you take for optional, the more time you're eating for your prelims specific preparation. That is the basic point. After a point, you have to transition from mains prelims to prelims. And once you have done with prelims, you only have to go for mains. This is your insurance. This is your insurance, because can you do all of this in 3 months? You tell me. Should not do answer writing in March and May. Makes no sense. Do it right now. Because then you are wasting time on answer writing when you should be solving questions. Can anybody do whatever I've written from this part? Can you do it in the period between prelims and mains? You tell me. No. So that is why you have to keep at least once you should have been done. At least once you should have been done. So that is the point, that if not, you're picking up. PI means post independence, world history, not WPI, WH, world history, post independence, DM. There's a separate type of discussion we are having. But I'm trying to just argue, because he asked me a question on optional. You have to pace yourself. You have to pace yourself. If you got a year, first 6 months should be this area. Last 3 months should be prelims oriented. That is the way you have to go about it. That is it. Give yourself time to solve as many questions as possible, checking application of knowledge, and you should also be in a position to write certain answers. And ethics should not be something which you open up in the 3 months. You should be in a position to cover everything within 3 months. For that, one reading is already important, right? Can I give you the timelines? Okay. Ancient timeline. Paleo, Meso, Neo, Indus Valley Civilization, early Vedic, later Vedic, Mahajana, Janapadas, Megalithic, North, South, North, South. Thereafter, Maurya, Shunga, Indo-Greek, Saka, Kushana, Gupta, post-Gupta, Sangam, Sangam and Satvahana, Satvahana, Vakataka. Rings a bell? This basic timeline? 2 million BC, 10,000, 4,000, 2,600, 1,500, 1,000, 500, 324, 184, 165, 150, 30 CE, 300 CE, 600 CE, 300 to 300 BCE to CE, 100 BCE, 300 CE. And then if you remember, I gave you post Gupta a list of 14 different dynasties, which should be clear in your mind. Anybody has any issue here? Just revising with you. Anybody any issue? Come on. You should be more proactive. You get a break at 5. Okay, no. Pala Pratyahara Rashtrakuta is medieval India. Medieval. Pala Pratyahara Rashtrakuta Chola. If I wanted to write here, Harshvardhana, Pallavas, Chalukyas, Chola. Thereafter, you have Chauhan, Tomar, Ghadwalas, Chandela. Then you have Chauhan, Ghadwalas, Solanki, Chandelas, Sena. Then comes Delhi Sultanate, Vijayanagara, Bahmani, then Sayyids, Lodhis, Mughal India. So this would be the period between 700 to 900 C. This would be 900 to 1131, or rather 1030. You have Hindu Shahis also, Hindu Shahi. Then this would be the period between 1030 1192. This is 12062 to 1414. This is 336. This is 347. This is 414, 450, 1526 to 1707 till 1857. Correct? Difference between imperial and normal chola. Normal chola are normal chola are part of Sangam polity. Imperial chola are these early medieval chola. Scale is different, period is different, rulers are different. If it was no snippet class. Snippet of class played at once like a clear flow. No issues? Very good, Sashmita. Samhita. Now, if you want, I can give you a very simple snapshot of modern India also. Because I have to teach you modern art and culture. If you need it, if you are very strong in it, or if you've gone through the sessions of someone else, you are comfortable with it, then we don't need to. Delhi Saltanat 12062 1414. Totally your call. Totally your call. Already attended your class on modern history, so then you don't need it. Modern needed, okay. So on popular demand, simple. Where do I start? Vasco da Gama, Cabral, Jahangir, Farman, Jahangir, Farman, Surat. This is Portuguese. This is Golden Farman. This is Shah Shuja Farman. This is Farooq C.R. Farman. 1757. Plassey, Buxar and Grant of Diwani 64-65. Grant of Diwani, Charter Acts, Revolt, Government of India Act. This is all of your company phase. Thereafter, 1861, 1885, 1892, 1905, 1907, 1913 to 15, 1915, 1917, 18, 1919, then 1920, 1922, 1923 to 25, 1927, 1930, 31, 32, 35, 40, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 45, 1947. 42, 42, 43, 44. Indian Council Act, INC formation, Indian Council Act, Swadeshi movement, Surat split, Gadar movement, Gandhi advent, 1916. You have Lucknow Pact. This is Champaran, Kheda, Ahmedabad. This is Rowlatt Act. Non-cooperation, Chauri Chaura, Swarajist, No Changers, Simon Commission, CDM, Gandhi Irwin, Pune Pact, McDonald Award, Government of India Act, Gandhi versus Bose, August offer, Individual Satyagrah, Cripps Mission. You have Bangkok Conference, Azad Hind Fauj. Thereafter, Imphal campaign, INA, INA trials. INA trials, you have Wavell conference, RIN mutiny, cabinet mission. This is Attlee declaration, Mountbatten, Ismay plan, June plan, Indian independence. I presume that when I say Swadeshi, partition of Bengal is implied in it. This is your modern India. 10 minutes modern India, everything. But still, this is not complete. Much smaller dates I've removed. For example, Delhi Declaration, or what is called November Declaration, the August Declaration. The for example, 1929 we did not add Purna Swaraj resolution, Lahore session. So multiple things. I can add more. If you've been with me in world history, modern India, you would know that I give a much more elaborate one. But this is a basic thing which you can use. So in a way, starts from Paleolithic 2 million BC, goes till 1947. This is the basic point, right? Done. Vivek, do you wear specs? दिख रहा है? Maurya Sangam year was also written against it. Now, if you are going to ask me BC and C, then I don't know what we've been doing for 1 month. Can anybody tell Vivek, Maurya, it should be CE or BCE? 324. You tell me, Vivek, what it is. I'm waiting for Vivek's answer. Vivek, what should it be? Come on. No, I'm asking about 324. This much, I think I've taught you this much, that if 324 is written here, 184 is written here, 165, isn't it the other way around? Again, Vivek, this is BCE. If it is 324 CE, firstly, you need to brush your knowledge. This is not the first batch you're doing with me for ancient medieval. This is the second or third batch you're doing with me. Still, you are stuck here. If 324 BC and 324 CE, there's a difference of 600 years. You go from Maurya to Gupta straight. If Shunga is 184 and 324 is written before it, then how can it be that 324 C comes before 184? Logic, basic logic. What did I tell you? When the bigger number is first and the smaller number is later, it is in what? Bigger number first, smaller number later. What is it? It is BC. And when it is smaller number first, bigger number later, it is C. Now don't tell me what is this, 120, 1222 or 1922, C or BC. So this much, I presume. Don't do who is Sita after teaching you the Ramayana. Don't do that. Please. So I presume this gives you enough understanding that what is the timeline. We take a break here. We take a break here. We will come back at 5:35. And when we come back at 5:35, we will start art and culture first module, Indus Valley Civilization architecture. So see you at 5:35. I hope ancient medieval everybody is clear. If they are, say yes so that I can presume and understand and have this satisfaction of knowing. If you never said yes, you said yes right now. Ancient medieval, nobody has no issues. You're able to basically understand the basic timeline. Yes? Great. So thank you. I will see you at 5:35. We officially start art and culture. Art and culture basic backstory and other issues are now done. Just revise. That is only I ask from you. Conceptual clarity, I've already given it to you. Thank you, and I will see you at 5:35. See you.